This video is one of the videos from a course entitled MBTI Learning Styles, a Practical Approach for Educators, Parents, and Learners. This course is available on Udemy, Teachable, and Thinkific. If you're interested in just the book, which is also part of this course, you can find it on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. All right, now we're going to start looking at sensing. Sensing is part of that information process, the information preference, right? So the contrast of sensing is intuition. This is how we take information in. So for a sensing person, they're going to take their information in through those five senses. They want to be able to touch, taste, smell, hear, and see. Then the more of those five senses that you can pull in and you can provide as part of that learning experience, the more of those you can provide, the better the learning is going to be for the sensing learner. Okay, so here you go. Here's our chart again. So notice your sensing is a little bit more scattered. Where is it scattered? On the bottom, right? The present. They are in the present. They want to be able to see how things apply right now. Absolutely right now. They are going to focus on how they can take it in and how it's going to add meaning to them right now. They don't care about the future. They just want to know how it can help them. So as you look at this slide, remember, this is how we deal with information. 73% of that population, our total population in the world, takes in information through sensing, hands-on, touch, those five senses, right? Versus intuition, which is only 26% of the population. You can see this is a huge, huge difference between one and the other. And when we are sensing, it's very easy for people to quickly assume everybody else is part of that sensing piece of taking information because there are so many. And many times the intuition side gets forgotten. Let's look at our keyword, detail-oriented. Detail-oriented, they're in the present. Detail-oriented, they like the details, they like to know everything. They're going to ask them the question, how does this relate? Right? How does this relate to my problem? How does this relate to my present? How does this relate to my life? Now, as an educator, this is the question that you probably hear the most from your sensing students. When am I ever going to use this again? Right? Exactly. I know I heard that question from my daughter just the other day, taking Algebra 2. What was her question? When am I ever going to use this? Right? That's the question. So how does this relate? And as an educator, especially since you know that 73% of students are going to be in a sensing piece, you want to be able to answer this question. You want to be able to walk into every learning situation and quickly be able to say that you know a practical application for what you are teaching. Let's look at the learning style. Let's see what is the general information or the general description of this kind of a learner. Your sensing students really love details. They've got to have details, and they acquire them so quickly. It's almost like they had the sixth sense that it just assimilates in very, very fast. They rely so heavily on those five senses that they're going to describe pretty much everything that you teach in a very literal method. They need to be able to associate things between those senses. They prefer that factual learning. They like structure and organization. They're careful, thorough, methodical. They're going to approach every learning situation in a very particular planned kind of way. And everything that they learn needs to have proven conclusions. Your students right here, these sensors, they're going to ask, this is interesting. How can you prove it to me? What's the science behind it? And because they want to know that, they have little to no tolerance for any kind of errors or problems or mistakes. They want to memorize facts and figures, and they love routine. Absolutely love routine. But remember, what is the biggest and most important thing? What? That's right. It's that useful information. They need to be able to have a purpose to what they are learning. How does all of this really relate to that cognitive environment, that classroom environment? Well, sensors really want to know what's expected of them before everything else. And if they don't understand what is expected of them, they really are just going to quit. It derails their entire learning opportunity. It messes up their experience. And as far as they're concerned, in their own mind, you know what they're thinking? What's the point? I've already made a mistake anyways. There's no point going back. I can't fix this. Well, they need clear outlines, they need guidelines, they need specific aids in their learning. They prefer that structure, remember. So while you're providing a structure, also make sure to give them handouts, visuals, hands-on experiences, so that they're constantly utilizing and using those 5 senses. As an educator, let's look at what you can do to really help them. First and foremost, in all of your classrooms, your lectures, your teaching, whatever you're going to do, break them into 2 separate sections. One is the information. What needs to be known? What is most important for them to know? Is this whatever it is, quite frankly, and then apply it. What is the application to the information? Why is it important for them to know, and how can they use it today? They want to know what the purpose is and how they can use it today. Be sure to give them some kind of reason that they can use it. A student the other day came up to me and was super excited because their teacher had showed them a purpose for a quadratic formula. Oh my goodness, what an ecstatic student. And I wish I had had a teacher who had showed me a purpose for the quadratic formula, quite frankly. So these sensors also need to have an ability to use all of their senses. So as an educator, if you can provide as many experiences as possible with the hearing, the touching, the tasting, the smelling, the seeing simultaneously, right? I know that's difficult, but you want to do it simultaneously, then it's really going to help them to be able to tie in that information and to be able to scaffold it into prior information. Also, you want the real life application. Don't forget that real life application. An easy thing to do if you are teaching sensors is to start your lessons with a question, address a question, and then have a problem, have a well thought out plan for that classroom time. You're going to be able to start with a question, and you're going to say, this is what we are going to learn, and this is how we're going to learn it, and this is how it applies, right? So be sure that you are able to answer all of those questions, but that you've also provided the question for the students to ponder and think about as you are going through the information. Be sure you give them the opportunity to evaluate and to really think about those questions, because they just like the questions and you've given them to them, but you need to give them an opportunity to use it, right? Okay, so let's move forward. They like to learn from their mistakes. This is the student that generally is going to come up and say, man, I realized that I missed 4 questions on my exam. Can you tell me about them? Now, this student is not coming up to tell you you're wrong, which is generally, I think, as educators, we get a little nervous about, but instead is coming up to say, you know, I'd like to learn more from this. I don't understand this piece. Can you please tell me how I made a mistake? They want to learn from their mistakes. Use visuals. You want to use lots of colors, diagrams, graphic organizers, charts. And this is really difficult sometimes as an instructor to be able to add these extra pieces in, because it does take a lot of time. So be sure to invite your students to participate in creating visuals. Have them aid you in this. Even help them to distribute them or hold up visuals, or maybe you want them to handle the clicker on a PowerPoint or whatever it is, but giving them that hands-on experience and a lot of audio-visual opportunities. As a learner, how do you use sensing? Hands-on, right? Hands-on. Remember that. Hands-on, detail-oriented, touching, 5 senses, hands-on. How can you implement as many as your senses as possible? Think about your 5 W's and your H. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. So as you're studying, search for answers to each of these questions during the instruction time. Don't wait for your teacher to say, this is what you're going to learn and this is the question you're going to learn. No, you can't expect them to cater to you. So instead, cater the instruction for yourself. Start off your notes with the 5 W's and the H, and then go through and answer them. Next, create doodles and drawings on the side of your materials. The reason you want to do that is now you've created a visual aspect to your notes. You want to highlight, annotate your reading, use lots of different colors. Colors are going to be vibrant and they're going to bring the information alive for you. Also, what else? Remember, after you take the notes in class, don't forget them, use them. Go back through them, reread them, rewrite them if you need to. Use different colors, highlighters. A Cornell Notes system is a really good template for sensors, so look into that option. Let your teachers know that you would really like to learn and you want to understand, but that you really need more hands-on information. And one of the things you can do as a college student, even as a high school student, is to walk up to your teacher and say, you know, I am really a hands-on teacher, and there don't seem to be very many opportunities for that in this class, and I'm not criticizing, but if you could please help me to figure out how I can create my own hands-on experiences with this information. Guess what? You've just made an ally with yourself, haven't you? Or an ally for yourself. Search for practical information. Maybe your teacher's not going to give that to you, so look for additional resources. Where can you look for help? I personally love YouTube, ViewPure. I use Khan Academy, Udemy. Look around and see what you can find. Let's see what other things you can do. Maybe rubrics are great because now you have the details, you know what's expected. And also, be sure that you don't always do things the same, the routine. For instance, don't always take your notes with the same black pen on the same white paper. No, make angles and different things which will really help for later recall. The biggest thing that I've said over and over and over again to learners as a consultant and as an educator is make sure that you individualize the learning experience. See what you need and find a way to create that and to mold that and to make it in a way that is really going to aid you in your own personal learning.